Okay, so hello and welcome back to another Discobot tutorial. In this video we're going to start to create the dialog handler. I think I mentioned it back in episode 1 or 2 of this series. It's a way to handle user input but makes it a lot easier than just hard coding bits where you ctx dot wait for message async, they get some message, if this do this, if this do this. We're actually going to build a system to do that we can reuse throughout our commands. Just like how dialogue works in video games where you start off, you interact with an NPC, you have some dialogue with them, and then based on your input it might go to a different step based on that input, or it could just go to the same step no matter what. And at each of these steps, based on your input, you can actually store that input. So let's say you have a model you want to send to an API, you can actually fill in that model, different parts of the data step by step. So you might ask for their name and then their age and then a description or whatever data you want. Or even you could just ask for 2 random values and do stuff based on those values. You might ask, what is your opinion about Stapadino? And then based on whether they say something good or bad, you might want to go to 2 separate steps based on if they said something good or bad. You might then ask them, what is it you like about them, or what is it you don't like, or whatever, right? It's up to you. I'm going to show you how to set it up. It's very generic, so you can do whatever you want with it. And let's get into the video now. But of course, first I've got to thank my patrons. A special thanks to SomeHobo101, Average Morning, Rack, Yoris Letter, Hades Orko, Renee, Evgeny, Art Farrell, Budaray, and Marie Baldwin. If anyone else is able to help support the channel monetarily, link to my Patreons down below. If not, there are links down below to other social media such as Twitch, Twitter, Discord, as well as our website. You can go look through our portals, make an account, it's free. Just look at the stuff we offer. We're obviously continuing to add new stuff to it all the time, continuous improvements, new updates all the time, so just stay up to date with that. It'd be greatly appreciated, and let's get to the video. Before we get into the video, I'm just going to remind you guys, down below on my GitHub page, you can get access to the source code for these videos in case you get stuck or can't follow for some reason. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and create a new folder in the root. We're going to make a folder called handlers, in case we ever make other kinds of handlers, right? So handlers. And then inside here, we're going to create a folder for dialog. Okay? And this is where all the stuff from this video is going to go. So the first thing to make is the actual dialog handler itself, which is going to be just a normal class we can create a new instance of. So it's the dialog handler. Okay. So whenever we want to do some dialogue, we'll just make a new instance of this class. It's pretty simple. Okay. So to make a dialog handler, what do we need? Well, in the constructor, let's make a constructor, a public dialog handler. We're going to want to take in 4 things. So we're going to want to take in the client, which is the bot doing the dialogue. So we're going to take in a Discord client, like so. So we'll just call it client. We're going to want to take in a Discord channel, which is the channel the dialogue's been done in. It's pretty simple. We're going to want to take in the Discord user, which is the person doing the dialogue, so like the person interacting with it. And then finally, the actual step to start on, because we're going to need to start somewhere, right? So we're going to have to actually make a class for what a step is, but whilst we're doing this, let's just make it anyway. So we're going to call it an iDialog step. Okay, starting step. The reason it's an iDialog step is because we're going to make an interface, because we're going to have different kinds of steps. Now for this video, we're just going to make one type, which is the text step, but we can also make the int step or maybe even the bool step. You can make basically different type steps, but based on those types, we need to handle it completely differently. Well, not completely differently, but we need to limit their input. So for integers, we have to actually make sure what they type in can be passed to an integer. Whereas for text, you can do whatever you want, right? So what we're going to want to do is we're going to make private read-only fields. So Discord client underscore client, like so. And then we can probably just copy paste this 3 more times. 1, 2, 3. This is going to be a Discord channel, Discord user, iDialog step. I'm just call it underscore. Now this isn't the starting step we're storing. We're actually going to be storing the current step. Now that I think about it, actually the current step is always changing, so we'll not make it read-only. Read-only means it can only be set in the constructor. So the current step actually can be changed throughout. Otherwise it'd be useless, if we couldn't change the current step. And there. So we've got user, client, oops, this is channel. Okay. So now we store the channel, client, user, step. So I think the next thing to do is just store these things. So underscore client equals client, underscore channel equals channel, underscore user equals user, and underscore current step equals starting step. Okay, now let's just make this iDialog step. So we're going to want to go over, add a new class, make an iDialog step. It's not actually a class though, it's an interface, so it's a public interface iDialog step. So remember, interfaces just define what a dialog step must have. Well, anything that implements iDialog step has to have certain stuff on it. So for our dialog step, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to have some functions on here. So we're going to want to make a task, because it's asynchronous, bool, and this is whether the step is successfully processed. Because what if you say, enter your age between, I don't know, 5 and 10 or something, I don't know, 5 and 100, and then they put in 2. Well, obviously that's not valid input. We don't want to move on to the next step. So this bool, true or false, will determine whether the step was done successfully. So we'll just call it process step. Okay. So it's going to want to take in the client, so Discord client. It's going to want to take in the channel, Discord channel. And it's going to want to take in the user, Discord user. Now, the place it's going to get all this data from is actually going to be the dialog handler. It's going to pass all the stuff in. Okay. As well as this, we're also going to want to be able to ask a step what the next step is after that step, which can be null. If it's null, it means we're at the end of that dialog tree. Because remember, it's a tree, right? Certain branches might be longer than others. You might have just, based on what they say right away, you might end. Or, based on what they say, you might go on a 20 different step thing, right? It can be completely up to you. So, we're going to want to know an dialog step, next step, and it's going to be a getter. We want to be able to get from a step the next step afterwards. And then we're also going to want to have an actual action Discord message. So an action is an event, or it's a type of event anyway, and then the data it passes through is a Discord message, and we'll just call it on message added. And the reason we're making this is because once we're done with the dialogue, you might want to actually delete all the messages of the dialogue to kind of clean up the channel, right? That's one cool thing you can do. You can track the messages as the dialogue's happening and then get rid of them all at the end. This is kind of up to you, so you don't even need this part if you don't want to do that, but I think it looks quite good. So we've got our dialog step done. Let's go to the next part. So back in the dialog handler, let's start writing the logic. So below the constructor, we'll want to store a list of all the messages that have been sent. Just like we said, we will want to track all the messages so that we can delete them afterwards. We're going to want to do that here. Sorry, so we can have a private read-only list of Discord messages equals a new list of Discord message. Okay. So we've got our list of messages, which is obviously empty at the start. And now we're going to have the actual main function for actually doing the dialogue. So it's going to be an asynchronous function. So it's a public async task bool. And the bool determines whether or not the dialogue was completely done. So we have the bool in the interface for whether a step was successfully done. And obviously, for a dialogue to be successfully done, all the steps must be successfully done. Or at least all the steps we actually, take part in. So we'll call this process dialogue. Okay. And then we want to say, let's first of all import tasks. Okay. Whilst the current step does not equal null, so whilst there is a step to do, we want to say, well, first of all, subscribe to the message being added. And with that message, so we'll just call it message, add it to the list. Messages.add message. Okay. So what we're saying is subscribe to the event on the current step. Whenever a message is sent during this step, add it to this list. So by the end of all the steps, we'll have all the messages sent in that list. Okay. Then we want to say var or bool cancelled. Yep. Is await current step. Then that function we made on the process step function needs to know about client. So underscore client. Oops. Underscore channel. Underscore user. Okay. Configure await false. Whoops. Okay, so we're saying do the current step, right? We're going to do the step. Now we know it's not null because we're inside the while if not null. And then once it's done, we'll get a true or false. So the step could end because it's cancelled or because it's done successfully. So we're going to say if it was cancelled, right? If it was cancelled, we want to say, well, let's delete messages. Delete messages. Now this is not a function I've made yet. Configure await false. So we're going to make a function down here. Private task delete messages. That's going to be an asynchronous task. Because what we want to do is want to say, well, if the channel is private, return. Because the bot cannot delete messages in DMs. So it's not going to bother delete. We definitely can't delete messages if it's in DMs. Okay. Then we're just going to say for each message in the messages, await message.delete async. So we're saying delete all the messages, basically. That's what we're doing there. Delete all the messages that we've stored. Okay. So here we're awaiting delete messages. And then after we've deleted those messages, we'll send an embed to let them know it was cancelled. So var cancel embed is a new, equals a new Discord embed builder. Okay. And then title is equal to, I don't know, the dialogue has successfully, I think I've spelled that right. No, I haven't, I'm missing S. Successfully been cancelled. There we go, spell it right now. Okay, so description is equal to, we'll just mention the user, so user.mention. And then the footer can be equal to, well, I don't know, I'm just not going to bother with footer. And the color could be Discord color dark green. Okay, like so. And then we want to actually send it, so await channel.send message async. We want to send the cancel embed, so it's embed is the cancel embed. .configure await false. And return false. And the reason we return false is because we're processing the dialogue. If that returns false, then it means that we didn't finish because we've cancelled, right? So that's what we do there. And then otherwise, once the current, after the cancel thing, after is cancelled here, current step equals current step dot next step. We get the next step from the step. Okay. And then once we're done, so outside the while loop, while there's no more steps, await delete messages. Configure await false. And then return true because it was successful. At this, if we get to the end here, it means we've done all the steps successfully, okay? And that is the dialog handler completely done. So the next thing I want to do is create a base class for dialog steps. I know I've already made an interface, but you can't put logic in interfaces. So we're going to make a base class that has a common logic we want to use with our classes. So, or with our steps, sorry. We want to make the dialog step base, I guess. Okay. It's a public abstract class. Well, the reason it's abstract is because we can't inherit it. No, we can inherit it. We can't use it, though, as an actual instance. We can't make a new dialog step base because it's abstract. There's going to be an I dialog step, which means it's got to have certain things, okay? So let's add those in. So it's got to have on message added. It's got to have next step. You know, I'm actually going to write these myself when I want them because I've got a layout I want to do. So we're going to have a protected read-only string content, okay? So we're going to store that. And then we're going to say, well, a dialog step base takes in storing content underscore content is equal to content. So the content is the actual question, you know, how old are you? What is your name? That is the content, okay? And then we're going to have the public action Discord message on message added get set. Okay, so we put that here. Whoops. So there's our event. And we're going to have a public abstract iDialog step. We're making it abstract because it's not up to us to actually decide how to get it. So we're saying, you know, for example, the event isn't abstract because we handle that completely. All the implementations will just use an event like this. Whereas getting a dialog step will be different based on the steps. To make this interface happy, we have to at least make it abstract. We need to say what we're doing with it, okay? We're also going to do the same with the process step because that's different. So public abstract task bool process step Discord client Discord channel Discord user. So now the interface is happy. We can just write any other logic down here we want to reuse, and there's one we want to reuse. I'm just going to copy paste it because it's just a waste of time to type it out. It's just going to be a try again, so we'll get rid of the footer. So all it is basically when someone does something wrong, we can use try again. We can use it in the different steps, and all it means is it makes an embed saying please try again, and then we have a field saying there's a problem with your input, and then you tell them the problem, and then we send the message. And we also raise the event on message added. Any messages you send in your steps should raise the event and pass through the actual message that was sent. That's so that we can actually delete them all at the end. We need to raise the event every time we send a message. Okay, that's the try again part. And now finally we can make an actual implementation. So we're going to make the final part, which is, well, first of all, we're going to make a folder called steps, actually. And for steps, I'm going to put the step base in. Whoops, what am I doing? Okay, put the step base in, don't prompt, okay. Put the step in here, and just make sure both of these are dot steps, dot steps. And then we'll probably have to tell the dialog handler to use dot steps. Okay. Now we'll inside steps make a new class called the text step, or you can call it the string step. It's up to you really. So the text step is a dialog step base. So it actually has all that logic we just wrote a minute ago. We're also going to have extra though an iDialog step next step. We're gonna, because text steps will always have a next step based regardless of what they put in. If you want to have it be dynamic, you can use a dictionary, which we're going to use in the next video. For now, this video we're just using a text step and keeping it simple, but we're going to make like reaction steps in an upcoming video, probably next video to be honest. So we want a nullable int min length, and all that means is that they are allowed to either supply it or not, right? It's up to them. They can set a min or they don't have to. They can set a max, they don't have to. It's up to them. So we'll do it with max as well, max length of the string. And then we'll say a public text step takes in, well, we still need to take in content, okay? An iDialog step. We need to take in the next step. We need to take in a nullable int min length, but if they don't supply it, it's null, so we'll just say equals null. And then we'll do the same for max length. If they don't supply a max length, it's equal to null. And then because it's inheriting a constructor, we have to pass through the content to the base. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Wait, no, content, like that. Okay, and then we can just put a comma there and set all these things. So it's the underscore next step equals next step, underscore min length equals min length, and underscore max length equals max length. Whoops. So now we've set up all the constructor. Now what we need to do is we need to say, well, okay, this particular class, when it has, okay, when we put in a valid result, right, when it asks for a name and we put in a name, we want to actually let the person or the command know what the input was, right? We need to tell it, hey, this was the input. So we'll say public action, public action of type string for this one. We can use integer for the int input and so on, but for now we're just using a string. On valid result, okay, get set, and then equals delegate. Whoops. What am I doing? Okay. Next, so we've got onValid result. We want to override the iDialog step, or the next step. There you go. So when we want the next step, we just return underscore next step. So for us, it's very simple. For other classes, it might be more complicated to actually do that. Public void change next step, because we might want to actually no, we're not even going to use that, to be honest. We don't need that. What we do want to do is want to override async task process step, like so. So we've got the process step there. Make sure we use this and use Discord and then use, so basically just add all the usings. I think it's happy now. Okay, so here's the logic for actually processing the step. So to process the step, we want to say, I'm just going to copy the embed stuff from my other code. I don't want to sit here just typing out embeds, okay? So we're just going to say, please respond below person, okay? And then we'll say embed builder dot add field to stop the dialog. Use the question mark cancel command. Okay. And then what we want to do is we want to take their actual, well, not take their input. First of all, we want to add more to this embed based on if they have a min or a max. So we'll say, well, if the min length has value, embed builder dot add field. And then, yeah, again, I just don't want to sit here writing all this out because it'll just take too long. So we just have this. If the min length has value, tell them what the min length is. If the max length has value, tell them what the max length is. Then we're going to say, well, interactivity is client.get interactivity, just like we've done in the past. So we get the interactivity, and then we'll make a forever loop. So while true, we want to say the embed is equal to channel.send message async, where the embed is the embed builder we just had above. Okay. So we're going to send, whoops, I've undocked this. Okay. So we'll just send the embed we made here, except I've clearly typed something wrong. This needs to be an async task. I swear I did that, but never mind. Clearly I didn't. Okay, so we've got this now. We've got this embed here. On message added embed, so we're going to let the handler know this message was sent. And then here we want to wait for a message. So the message result is await interactivity dot and then wait for message async, where the conditions are that the channel the channel ID is equal to channel.id that's been passed in. And then we also want to say and, where x.author.id is equal to the user.id .configure await false. So what we're saying is, I'll do it on the line there. We're saying is it has to be sent in, sorry, the message that is the response has to be sent in the same channel and by the same user. That makes sense. On message added, message result.result. And then we want to say, well, if they put in cancel, then we just want to return true, because true means cancelled. If we cancelled. So we're saying if the message result is cancel, return true. Okay? And then otherwise, we're going to say if min length has value and their result's length is less than the minimum, if it's equal to the minimum, it's fine. But if it's less than it, we want to say try again, which is the function made below. And we're just going to say your input is that many characters too short. Okay? Min length value minus the results length gives you how short it is, like how much too short it is. And then we're going to do the exact same for the maximum, right? So I'm going to say, well, if max length has value and yours is longer than the max length, then we'll tell them how much longer it is, and then try again. Continue, okay? And then finally we'll say, well, if we get to this point, it means the result was valid. So the message result.result.content is the message that was sent. And we're going to return false. Now, the reason we return false is because it's not cancelled, right? Because earlier on we said var cancelled equals this. So if we return true, it means it was cancelled. False means it wasn't. But now we've actually made the dialog step. I know it's quite complicated, but as I said, if also this can be read-only, I guess. If you want to, then obviously go ahead on GitHub and get access to this. Okay, so this video has gone on for quite a while. I'm actually going to split it up into a part 2. So if you want to get the code in its current state, then feel free to go ahead and get that. But I don't want to make this video last like too long for you guys, so we're just going to split it up into a part 2. I hope you guys look forward to that, where we'll actually show this in use, and then we'll create some more different step types and tie it all together, and then we can move on to something new after the next video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know there's not much to show off really, but it's because it's quite a lot to do. Obviously it's quite a complex thing. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. It would mean a lot. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.